In this video, we're going to look at an example of balancing a redox reaction using the half reaction method in acid. The reaction we're going to look at is the reaction of permanganate plus chloride ions to form perchlorate and manganese 2+ ions. Our first step is going to be separating like species into skeletal half reactions. So our permanganate, MnO4 minus, and our manganese 2+ are like chemical species, so they will form one skeletal half reaction. And our chloride and perchlorate will form the other half reaction. Our next step is to balance all elements except oxygen and hydrogen. So we just want to check that we have the same number of manganese, 1 and 1, and the same number of chlorines, 1 and 1, in both of our skeletal half reactions. Our next step is going to be to balance oxygen by adding water to the half reactions. So if we start with our manganese half reaction, we have 4 oxygens on our reactant side, so we need to add 4 waters to our product side to balance out those oxygens. For our chloride half reaction, we have 0 oxygens on our reactant side, 4 on our product side, so we will add 4 waters to our reactant side. Our next step is going to be to balance out hydrogens by adding H+ ions. This is why we're balancing an acid. So in our first half reaction, we have 8 hydrogens on our product side, so we need to add 8 H+ ions to our reactant side. In our second half reaction, we have 8 hydrogens on our reactant side, so we're going to add 8 H+ to our product side. Our final step in balancing our half reactions is going to be to add electrons to balance the charge. So in our first half reaction, we have a charge on our reactant side of +7, so 8 positive minus 1, and on our product side, +2. So that means that we need to add 5 electrons to our reactant side to balance out that charge. In our second reaction, we have a charge of -1 on our reactant side and +7, so 8 minus 1 on our product side. So that means we need to add 6 electrons. That means we need to add 8 electrons to balance those out. Our final step before we put everything together is to balance the half reaction electrons against each other. So in our first half reaction, we gain 5 electrons. In our second, we lose 8. The number of electrons lost must equal the number of electrons gained. So we need to multiply both reactions by whole numbers to get to the lowest common multiple. In this case, that's going to be 40. So we're going to multiply this reaction by 5 and multiply this reaction by 8. We now have balanced electrons, and we're going to cancel out redundant species. So 40 electrons, our electrons should always cancel completely. 40 hydrogens in our second reaction will cancel out, and we'll be left with 24. 20 waters in our second reaction will cancel, and we should be left with 12. Our final step is going to be to add our 2 half reactions together and check the balancing just to confirm we've done it correctly. So our balanced reaction will be 24 hydrogen ions plus 8 permanganate ions plus 5 chloride ions, producing 5 perchlorate ions, 8 manganese 2+ ions, and 12 water molecules. And we can quickly check our balancing just by counting ions. So in our elements. So in our reactant side, we have 24 hydrogens we have 8 manganeses, 5 chlorines, and 8 times 4 is 32 oxygens. In our product side, we have 12 times 2 is 24 hydrogens, 8 manganese, 5 chlorine, looking good so far. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 12 is 32 oxygens. And then for good measure, we can check our charge. So we have positive 24, minus 8 is 16, minus 5 is plus 11. And on this side, we have negative 5 plus 16 is plus 11. So everything balances, and we have successfully balanced this redox reaction.